Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope you are doing well. So in today's class, I'll explain you one case study and rather I'll provide you the complete answer to the questions of this case study as well. And this case study is from June 2023 exam series and variant is 1-2. So let's see what this case study says and what are the questions and how to answer those questions. So you can see the case study on the screen right now. Just read the data, stop the video, read the data, and then listen to the questions that I'm explaining you. And at the end of this video, I believe you will be 100% crystal clear how to answer the case study in AS Economics Paper 2. Okay, so let's move on to the question paper. Okay, so this is the case study. You can read it, right? So I'm waiting for you so you can read it quickly. And I'm not reading it for you. You can read it yourself. And I'll just explain you the questions that are being asked. And I'll also basically explain you this table. What does this table show and how can you use this table to answer the questions? So this is a really important thing to take into account whenever any kind of data, any kind of like table or graph is given in the question. You must be able to read it carefully and you must be able to interpret the values given in this data. Okay, so for example, if we talk about economic growth rate in 2016 is 1.6% and in 2020 it is minus 1.8%. It means growth rate is positive in 2016 and eventually it moved to negative economic growth. Negative economic growth means fall in GDP of the country and positive economic growth means rise in GDP of the country. Inflation rate in percentage is 15.7%, 16.5%, and it moved to 12.8% in 2020. So inflation rate is eventually increasing and it reached the peak point that is 12.5, 12.8 in 2020. And current account balance is 0.7 in 2016. 0.7 is positive value, so it is surplus. And then surplus decreased again from 2.8 to 1.3, and then it moved to deficit, and again it is in deficit, but deficit decreased in 2020 as compared to 2019. Overall, we can say that current account moved from surplus to deficit from 2016 to 2020. So this is how you can basically interpret these values. Government budget balance is minus 3.9. It means it is in deficit, right? So when the value of budget is negative, it means government is having deficit budget. And budget deficit is again minus 5.2, which is again deficit, and deficit has increased. In 2016, it was deficit, but deficit was a little lesser. And in 2020, it is again deficit, but deficit has increased. And then unemployment rate was 7% and it moved to 9% in 2020. So unemployment rate also increased. So this is how you can basically interpret the values given in the table. Again, read the rest of the case study and then I'm moving to the questions. Okay, so you can stop the video, read the case study carefully, and then you can move to the questions. Okay. So these are the questions. If we look into the first question says that compare the budget balance of Nigeria in 2016 with the government budget balance in 2020. So as I told you earlier, in 2016, it was deficit. Budget was deficit. Budget is basically the summary of income and expenditure of the government. If income of the government is greater than its expenditure, then budget is surplus, and if expenditure are more than the income, then it is deficit budget. And when both are equal, it is called equilibrium budget. So budget balance of Nigeria in 2016 was deficit because it was negative, and in 2020 it is again in deficit, but deficit has also increased. So for getting 2 points, what you have to say is okay, budget deficit in 2016 and budget deficit in 2020 is experienced in Nigeria. However, this budget deficit increased from 2016 to 2019 because in 2016 it was, I think it was 3.9 and the 3.5 or 3.9. Let's move back to the data. Then you can see that budget is negative 3.9, mean it is in deficit, and it moved to minus 5.2, that is again deficit, and deficit has increased. So you can mention these values in your answer. Okay, so now moving to the second question, part B of this question, and question says that using production possibility curve diagram, demonstrate the impact of the rising level of unemployment on the Nigerian economy. Keep in mind, whenever there is unemployment in the economy, there will be a movement inside the PPC, right? So you will have to draw the PPC diagram. You will label X good on X and Y good on Y axis, or any other type of two goods. Let's say initially economy of Nigeria was operating at point A. If there is increase in unemployment, then we will move inside the PPC from point A to B, let's assume. Keep in mind, unemployment does not shift PPC to the left, rather PPC will stay at its place and there will be a movement inside the PPC. Just you have to draw this graph, right? So moving to part C of this question, consider the extent to which the removal of fuel subsidy in Nigeria would lead to an increase in inflation. Right, so there are important terms used here. One is subsidy. Subsidy is the financial support that government provides to the producers so that they produce more and supply more into the economy. And then we have another important term, that is inflation. Inflation refers to the persistent rise in general price level. So if government removes subsidy on fuel, then to what extent inflation is expected to rise? So keep in mind, when government removes subsidy from any product or service, then its supply will decrease. So initially we have demand curve, for example, this supply is this much. Equilibrium will take place at E, where price is P and real GDP is Y, and quantity is Q. And this is basically demand and supply of fuel, right? So we plot quantity on X and price on Y axis. And if government removes subsidy, then supply will shift to the left and equilibrium will move to E1, where price will rise to P1 and real GDP and quantity will fall to Q1. Okay, so we can see that removal of subsidy resulted in rise in prices of fuel. So whenever there is a rise in price of fuel, it will lead to rise in cost of production, and when cost of production increases, overall general price level increases. So removal of subsidy will cause inflation in the economy. And now you have to talk about the extent. The extent of increase in inflation depends upon the elasticity of demand and the contribution of fuel as a cost of production. If fuel contributes to a larger percentage of cost of production, then inflation will rise substantially as compared to when it is a little like contribution to the cost of production. Moving to part D, assess whether using supply side policies is the best way to diversify the Nigerian economy away from its dependence on oil and natural gas exports. Okay, so there are important terms that are used here. One is diversification or diversify, and the other one is supply side policy, right? So you have to explain these basic terms. Diversification refers to the production of a variety of products instead of just producing one type of good. And when a country diversifies, it means it reduces the risk of loss. And supply side policies are the policies adopted by the government to increase aggregate supply in the country. And this policy includes the tools like subsidy, provision of subsidy, education and training of workers, and trade union reforms, deregulation of monopoly, capital expenditure of the government on long-term projects. So these are kind of policies that are used by the supply side policy. And you need not to explain all of them, but you have to explain two policies, any two policies that can be the best way to diversify the Nigerian economy. And then since the question is assess, you will have to talk against that as well. And at the end, you will have to give conclusion because 1 mark is reserved for conclusion in this 6 mark question. So you will have to define what diversification is. Diversification is producing a variety of products to just reduce the risk of loss, right? When a country produces more than one type of goods, then any loss of one good can be cross-subsidized or compensated with the profit of another product. And supply side policy is the policy of the government that manipulates aggregate supply in the country by providing subsidy to the private sector, by educating and training workers, and by capital expenditure, for example. So if government provides education and training to the workforce, they will become more efficient and they will be able to work in diversified industries like for that industries that provide variety of tasks. So when people get education, training and skill according to the new industries, they will be able to get employed there. And secondly, government can provide subsidy to the private sector so they can use that subsidy to purchase new machinery, technology, and tools so that they can uh, diversify and they can invest into the new industries. On the other hand, you will have to write against the supply side policies as well because they might not be the best policies because if they are not undertaken effectively, for example, if the subsidy provided by the government is misused by the private sector, then all the money invested will be wasted. So diversification won't be possible then. Similarly, if government provides education and training to the workforce, then it depends how uh, these workers are willing and able to improve their skills. Sometimes what happens is government keeps spending money on its own from its own accounts, but people don't care and they don't learn new skills and they don't become efficient and productive. So as a result, diversification might not be possible, or it might not be the best way to diversify Nigerian economy. And at the end, you will have to give conclusion, right? In conclusion, you can say that in conclusion, supply side policies are the best way, yeah, not the best way, whatever you want to say. You can say that uh, are the best policies if they are undertaken effectively and workers are willing and able to learn the new skill to be accommodated into the new fields. And moving to part E of this question, assess whether adjusting um, the collection of direct or indirect tax is likely to be more effective in increasing the tax revenue collected by the Nigerian government. Okay, so again, this question also has technical words and terms of economics, such as like direct tax and indirect tax, and then tax revenue definitely. So again, question starts with the command word assess. So when the question starts with command word assess, you have to write about the three assessment objectives: assessment objective 1, assessment objective 2, assessment objective 3. Assessment objective 1 is knowledge, assessment objective 2 is analysis, and 3 is evaluation. Evaluation here means just conclusion. So first of all, you can just basically talk about direct taxes. Direct taxes are the taxes that are imposed on incomes, profit, or property. And indirect taxes are imposed on consumer spending, such as value-added tax, custom duties, excise duties, and sales tax, etc. And then you have to talk about that these are two main sources of government tax revenue. If government basically imposes direct tax, then people will pay more taxes from their incomes, from business will may pay more profit from their profits. And in case of indirect taxes, you have to say that when government imposes indirect taxes on goods and services, definitely everyone will have to pay that tax. So uh, it is basically the greater source of revenue for the government because everyone comes under the tax net. While in direct tax, in case of direct taxes, only those people who earn a certain amount of money come under the tax net. Okay, so then you can say that direct tax is like a good way or more effective way of increasing government tax revenue because it gives more certainty to the government because government knows uh, who is getting how much income from like their organization, so government can charge more taxes on direct taxes. So that are more certain that government will receive that income. However, direct taxes, if they are like of progressive nature and they keep increasing, then many workers will be reluctant to work hard. Investors will be reluctant to invest into the new projects and earn high profits, and they may be involved in tax evasions as well because they may like stop uh, telling the government or informing the government what kind of income they are earning. Indirect taxes can be the good way because many people come under the tax net irrespective of the income they receive. So you can like uh, say that indirect taxes can be the good way. And at the end, you have to evaluate which one of them is the most effective. Since in case of direct taxes, tax evasions are more likely and they are discouraging for the workers to work hard and producers to produce more and earn more profits because they have to pay more taxes. Um, so in conclusion, you can say that direct tax gives more certainty and they are more fair in a way that those who earn high income, they pay high taxes. And indirect taxes are unfair in a way that everyone has to pay the same amount of tax irrespective of the income. For example, if you have to pay $10 indirect tax on a certain product, then irrespective of the income you earn, you have to pay $10. So they are regressive by nature. So low income earners pay a greater percentage of their income in tax, and high income earners pay lesser percentage of their income. Okay, so these are the explanation of these questions. Now moving to the exact answers. What should you write in the answers? So I have already produced the answers to these questions. So I would like all of you to just read these answers. I'm just showing those answers to you. So these are answers to the questions I have discussed. So answers to section A. Uh, Option A, answer A is showing on the screen. You can just stop the video, read the answer carefully. And then answer of part B is also showing on the screen. And then answer of question C is showing. Just read it. Okay, so this is the answer of C part. And then moving to the part D. So this is the complete answer of part D. You can stop the video, read the answer carefully, and then we have part E. And this is part E of the same paper. You can again stop the video, read this answer carefully so that you can reproduce such answers in the exam paper. And this is it for today's class. So see you with the next video, with the next class soon, inshallah. And before exams are on like 10th, paper 2 is on 10th of May. So I'll try to like explain as many answers as possible before 10th. And I'm also planning to conduct an online like grand class, and grand class will last for 6 hours. And if you are interested, you may get yourself registered on, you may send your name and like your details on the WhatsApp number provided at the start of this video. Okay, so see you soon, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.